am here to talk about my 10 favorite spy games. I'm Tom Vasel. I love board games, and I can't wait to talk about this category because spies are something that fascinate me. In real life, a spy can be a hero or a villain, right? Depending on which side you are. Spies are a very dangerous thing, but spies in movies and books and things are more of a, James Bond type feel. Oh, they're sneaking through and getting things done. And so the spy theme, sometimes in these games, it's looser than you might think. Sometimes it's realistic. Sometimes it's just silly James Bondish fun. But there's actually more spy games than I thought. As I went through to make the spy games, I was like, whew, there's just a lot going on here. So let's just get right into these. Number 10 for me, for my favorite spy games, is 1955 War of Espionage. And this is a game that's like the height of the Cold War. And it's not quite like Twilight Struggle, which is a big overarching view of the Cold War. This is more of a focused thing as you're playing cards and doing things back and forth to try to, win the game as your espionage is fighting your opponent's espionage. And there's actually quite a few games I could have put on the list here, CIA versus KGB. But this is the one I picked. It's a good, solid little game you may not have heard of. Go check it out. Number 9 is I Spy. I Spy is probably another one most people haven't heard of. I believe it was a Kickstarter. In this game, you're a spy for a different country, and you're in Europe, and you're going around. You're not sure what each other spy is doing, but each spy has a goal, and so you're trying to make the influence for different countries. You're up or down. You have different categories. You're trying to influence different actual historical people that are in the game. There's really a lot of cool things about this game. Part of it is just the look of it all. A lot of fun. I Spy. Number 8 goes to the opposite extreme, no longer historical. We're in the total craziness. That's Agents of Smersh. Agents of Smersh is definitely a James Bond type thing where you are fighting the Agents of Smersh in this game. You are heroes and going all over the area. It's a cooperative game, but it's a storytelling game. And there's a book of stories that comes with the game, and you say, I'm going to do something. Okay, look up this paragraph. Read what happens, blah, blah, blah. And there's stories and all kinds of crazy James Bondish stuff will happen. Sometimes you have to make choices. What are you going to do here in this situation? And meanwhile, you're fighting the main bad guy and his minions and stuff. A lot of fun cooperative game, Agents of Smersh. Number 7 is Incognito. This is like 18th century spies as you go to Venice. And this is a 4-player game. And one of the 3 people at the table is your partner, but you don't know who your partner is, and you're going around and you're moving different spies around the board, and you have to accomplish a certain goal. What's that goal? Well, it depends on who you are and who your partner is. And once you figure out who each other is, you can figure out what your goal is. You do that before your opponents figure out who they are and what their goal is, and you can win the game. But you have to be careful because you need to know who your partner is. That person you might be cooperating with might not be your partner. Fascinating game, Incognito. Number 6 is Codenames. Now this one is not a strong spy theme, but I put it on the list because it's all about spies. The whole thing is about revealing spies. It's a good party game. It takes password and really kind of expands on it as you say something and then a number of words that corresponds to. So if I say, colorful 3, and you're like, well, there's 3 words that are colorful, or he just said Madrid 2. Which 2 words is he talking about? There's also a pictures version of it, and they're coming out with a Disney version and a Marvel version. But the original version was very much spy-themed, Codenames. Number 5 is The Resistance. Now this one, you have spies within you. I mean, the social deduction games are kind of built from the ground up for spy games. In The Resistance, you're a bunch of people fighting against some evil big mega corporation, Walmart. And as you do so, there's a few people amongst you who are spies. They are actually working for the big evil corporation, Walmart. And so you have to figure out by sending people on missions who these people are. It is a ton of fun. The Resistance. They also made a medieval version called The Resistance Avalon. Number 4 is Confusion, Espionage, and Deception in the Cold War. Really, really too long of a name. But this is a 2-player abstract strategy game. And in this game, you control pieces, but you don't see what those pieces are. You have to figure out what each piece is. Each piece, you give a letter to it. So you're like, okay, K, and you move it forward too, and your opponent says you can't do that. Okay, so he can't move forward too, so he has to be one of these pieces. And eventually you figure out what the pieces are, which really kind of is a fascinating, interesting thing. And your opponent can allow you to make a move every once in a while over the course of the game, which adds a little bit of line to the game. It's a very, very clever game. Number 3 is Heimlich. Now, Heimlich, there are 2 versions of it. There's the basic version that came from Europe, And then I believe the Rio Grande version added special powers. I think I like the Rio Grande one a little better. But in this one, you're just moving a bunch of spies around in a circle to different locations and trying to figure out at the end of the game who controls each one, which can be tricky, but also simple. It's a game that it's kind of probably due for a reprint or at least a revising/reprint. I really enjoyed it. Heimlich. Number 2 is City of Spies, STRL 1942. This game, which has just been reprinted by Stronghold Games, in which you are placing spies around the board, and those spies are going to affect other spies. It's kind of like an area control with special powers. A really neat, strongly themed game. This is one I considered for Dice Tower Essentials because I just really like the idea of it. I'm glad to see the reprint. Reprint was done very nicely. City of Spies, STRL 1942. And my favorite spy game, well, let's go pure silly here. Mad Magazine Spy vs. Spy style, and that's Spyfall. Now, the spy in this game is pretty dumb because they're in a location and they don't know where it is. But it's a party game in which everyone knows where you're at. You get a card, like, oh, we're at the beach. And so you're asking each other questions about, where are we? What does this feel like? What's this? Trying to figure out who's a spy because the spy has no idea where they are. However, the spy is trying to listen to what everyone's saying and figure out where exactly they are. So if they can guess it, they win. So you want to ask somewhat vague but helpful questions. Great game, love it, played it many times. That's Spyfall. Those are my favorite 10 spy games. What are yours? What have I missed? I mean, there's a lot of games I considered. I considered Covert, Spectre Ops, a game just called Spy. There's just a lot of Scotland Yard. Is that kind of a spy game? I wasn't sure. You're not really I don't know if the guy's a spy or not. There's a lot of great ones out there. Let me know in the comments what you think. Anyway, until next time, I'm Tom Vasel. This has been the Dice Tower Top 10 Spy Games.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.